They didn't let me keep the puppet, and I was not going to buy a creepy puppet. Okay, if you're a fan of anime, you're going to enjoy Fast and Furious. I just wanted to do comedy and acting, but my dad said I couldn't do it because, I have to do a job that makes money. Okay, no, I think all monks are bad. Are they as good as they say they are?
So let's do some rapid fire questions.
Okay, yeah.
Favorite Pokemon?
Oh, Toxicroak.
Favorite movie?
Oh, my favorite movie is The Big Lebowski.
And favorite role that you've played?
Favorite role that I've played, I think, is going to be Dr. Heelsgood in Workaholics because I had like a ventriloquist dummy. Everyone thought I was really a ventriloquist. Like on set, they were like, "Oh, this is your dummy." I was like, "No, props gave it to me."
Have you used that skill since?
Not at all.
Not at all.
No. They didn't let me keep the puppet, and I was not going to buy a creepy puppet.
Well, I mean, you've come up from like an improv background.
Mm-hmm.
Have you found that it's like informed how you approach acting or maybe writing or anything like that?
100%. So I've been doing improv since high school because we had Comedy Sports High School League.
Oh, wow.
And then I was doing short form, and then I came into long form when I joined UCB and have been doing it since. But when I joined UCB, I started doing stand-up too. And that was perfect because the stand-up informed my joke brain and the improv got me loose and open to improvising, and so they would help each other because I think the stand-up made me more witty because I would just be writing stuff, so I would have like funny one-liners in a scene or buttons, and the improv made it easier to do crowd work and like segue into different jokes and just kind of be freeform and be comfortable just on stage and figuring it out. Just chit-chatting on a podcast, all of that is just improv because you just kind of find the funny thing and then you just start bouncing around and playing with it.
Nice. And I know you've written for TV and also games.
Yes, so I wrote for Ticktone on Adult Swim, Grand Crew on NBC, Twisted Metal for the first season. For video games, I did Borderlands 4, so, and then the new DLC character, Cash. I developed that character with them. And then Apex Legend, I made Newcastle and did a bunch of writing on there as well.
What do you find, I guess, is there a lot of crossover writing for TV and games? Is it very different? Like, do you find it each challenging in different ways?
I feel like it's very different, but there are things that are kind of shared. I think that with TV writing, you're kind of siloed with your writing, team, and you're making episodes. And then if you're doing like network, like Grand Crew was network, so we had like the table reads before we shot, and that's when you kind of have the execs come in, kind of give their notes and working with them and then doing that. And I feel like games is a little more integrated where like all the kind of shareholders are kind of having a voice in what you're saying very early on. And I think learning to kind of find the note behind the note, which is like essentially if you have a note you don't agree with, if you're like, I don't know why that note is there, I don't agree with that note. A skill that I learned from, my good friend Phil Jackson, who created Grand Crew, is like, there's always a note behind the note. You have to like respect everyone as a viewer, even if you're not agreeing with them.
It's subjective.
So it's subjective. So like something is causing them to think that. So if it's something you disagree with because you feel like it's explained and they're asking about something that's explained, then it means it's not like clear enough. You need to find a way to make it more clear. If they kind of are trying to like shift the character to be a little different than what you think it is, then you need to be more clear about what that character is. And I think just being open to kind of collaborating and hearing people out, but also staying true to the vision that you have for what you're working on.
And what about something like Grand Crew where you're acting and also writing? Is it difficult to balance the two hats? Or?
No, because it's it's very fun. That's the fun of being a writer performer is you write the script and you put a voice on a character, right? And then you're in the table reading, they're like, wow, you're really good at that one. You're like, I wonder why, But, for that one, it was just kind of like a end of the episode bit that we threw together that we were like, oh, if you're an actor, you want to do this bit? I was like, sure. And it was very fun. And, there was like potentiality of having it be like a running bit because it was this like podcaster and who happened to be talking about what a character was going through. And it was like, oh, it'd be funny to bring them back and have them also talking about. But it was hard because like I couldn't pitch it because then it just seems like it's like, I want to act again, So I had to be like, don't we all think this would be cool? No? All right, cool. Then I guess it won't be there.
Very subtle.
Yeah. But I think it's exciting, and I think there's enough kind of distance from it to where it gets pretty easy.
And obviously you're an avid player of D&D.
Yes.
We love D&D.
Oh, yes.
So when you're playing that and playing a character, what have you noticed in terms of, how does that storytelling differ? How does that offer unique ways to, I guess, tell a narrative that is different to film and TV?
Oh, man. No, that is one of the things I absolutely love about doing actual play, is that the way that it differs is we're in complete control as writers, as actors, even improvisers. We got our suggestion and we know where we're going with the story. As a writer, we're writing the story that we've beat out and outlined. As an actor, we have a script.
Yeah.
When we're playing D&D or any other tabletop game, the dice can completely change everything you're trying to do in the story. And instead of being affected by it or tripped up by it, as improvisers, we're like, well, that's the reality. And it's almost why it's even more fun to make big, bold kind of choices before a role, because that will determine who you really are. So if it's like one of the first episodes of an actual play, and I've told myself, like, this character's one of the greatest detectives in the world, and this character the whole time is talking about they're a great detective, they're this, that, and you roll a perception and it's a 1 and it's terrible, then the new thing is that your character thinks they're a great, detective when they're really not. And, it will make those times when you do get the good role, because you're probably high in perception, so it's probably odd that you didn't. When you do get it, then it's like very like these insightful things, almost like like Monk or Psych, where it's like, are they as good as they say they are? Are they not? Or it's a thing where something you justify why you screwed this up, and then you get deeper insight to the character. So there's so many ways you can take a kind of subversion of the story that you're trying to tell, because the dice said something different, and it only enhances the story.
I just realized you meant Monk, the TV show, not the D&D class. I was like, oh, okay, yes,
Yeah,
Monk.
yeah,
But no, yes, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
No, I think all monks are bad. Are they as good as they say they are? No.
Yeah, cool. And I'm such a huge fan of like Dimension 20, and especially Never Stop Blowing Up. I
Oh,
thought
yes.
Such a great subversion of the form and the storytelling in that, like the layers of, playing two characters that are really opposed in their outlook and their disposition.
Well, that's kind of where, it all kind of just came from. Like, I specifically wanted them to be so opposed, because the moment, so Brendan's like, hey, we were going to do this. It's going to be an action movie, season. It's going to be kind of like Jumanji. It's going to be a comedy season. We're going to be going balls to the wall. I was like, great. And so before Wendell even was a thought in my mind, I knew I wanted to do Vic Ethanol, because I love Fast and Furious. I think it's such a ridiculous series, but I love it because as someone who started watching from the first one, and the first one, which was this gritty crime street racing movie, and growing up in LA, that was just that was in the culture. It was such a representation of like what it was. And then Too Fast, Too Furious, which is a little kind of heightened, and then but it's still on the same level, and you're like, all right, cool, I'm seeing it. I skipped Tokyo Drift specifically because I was super into drifting. I was a big Initial D fan, and I thought that the movie didn't understand drifting. And it's funny.
It's not the same if you understand.
Yeah.
It's like, but, you haven't read the book.
Yeah. Very much total teenage weeb energy, because I went back and watched it. I was like, yeah, they got the Drift King in the movie and all the drifts, and I was like, they did understand. I just was so opposed to it. And then you had the fourth one, which was Fast and Furious, when they kind of returned. And that one's even still kind of gritty into the form. And then we get to Fast 5, and The Rock enters, and then it starts going off the rails. Then we get power creep, and everyone, we're somehow supposed to believe that Vin Diesel is just as strong as The Rock. They're hitting each other with these buildings. And so, and then we're now at Fast 10, where they're just in space, they're doing all these things. So I was like, oh, I want that character. I want this larger than life cartoon character who's just a street racer, because the trick of any Fast and Furious is, what is a worldwide spy movie crisis that for some reason can only be solved with cars? And so that was going to be the fun game for me. And then I was like, okay, well, I have this big overconfident, toxic machismo, larger than life character, who is going to be embodying that? It has to be the opposite. And so I was like, oh, I'm gonna make Wendell, who is essentially just an exaggerated version of myself at 18, because I just didn't know what I wanted to do. I was playing a lot of
Did any of
Dota.
us know?
Yeah, I was playing a lot of Dota. I was doing computer science. Like in actuality, I just wanted to do comedy and acting, but my dad said I couldn't do it because, you know, I have to do a job that makes money. So like, you know, you're in this like weird Arrested Development, undiagnosed ADHD. You're so like not sure.
I feel that too. Yeah. Yeah.
So just not sure of yourself.
Yeah.
So like super confident, machismo, caring, soft, unconfident. And so having those two truths going into it, you know, and this is the thing everyone always talks to, is like the moment where, you know, Vic talks to Wendell in the reflection. I was like, yeah, because those two truths that I created when making the characters made that the only route. It only made sense. I was like, Wendell is not a person who is going to like figure it out. They don't have the gumption. They don't have the thing of just doing a thing. They will wait till someone else takes the lead. And Vic Ethanol, or Dominic Toretto in the series, is a cartoon character who breaks all the rules to make sure he can win.
Yeah.
So, of course, in that moment, he's going to break the rules of whatever laws of physics or, you know, the reality of the world they're in to be like, no, this is what you need to do because I'm not going to lose. And so it was kind of like all of those thoughts that were just kind of more reactionary because of the truths that I baked into the character. Made it happen.
I think we all need a bit of Vic Ethanol sometimes.
Oh yeah,
Like,
sometimes you just got to do it.
Get
You
us
got
over
to
the line, do the thing. For
Yeah.
sure. I love hearing people talk about Fast and Furious. I haven't seen a single one. I know,
wow.
I'm ashamed. I'm a film nerd, but
I mean,
it's not...
yeah, if you're a film nerd, that's probably why you didn't see it. You know,
Maybe.
I would say that like as far as like films go, and you're like, okay, like I'm looking for like
A24,
yeah. The first one is such a good insight into like, you know, American Los Angeles streetcar culture.
Yeah.
And that's good. It's like dated now in a few ways, but like it is like still a crisp, it looks good, lots of like yellows, lots of very like, you know, just those West Coast yellows and oranges that you saw a lot in like the early aughts, late 90s films. It like feels good, snappy, and I believe that was John Singleton who did the first, John Singleton either did the first or second one. And then Too Fast, Too Furious is like Miami. It's bright, it's colorful. Like those two as itself is like such an interesting part of the time. But if you just want to get into the mania, you literally can pick up at Fast 5 and The Rock's entry, because they kind of do like a pretty good like prologue that kind of like lets you know everything that's happening. It's like a good entry point. You don't really miss anything. And you don't have to watch the other 4 movies. It's just like, and from that point, it's just like a Marvel movie. And so like, you just get
Watchable.
going. You get to go. And to me, it's like, I get joy out of it. Like I enjoy it. Like I will talk a bunch of smack about it, but like I really enjoy seeing the films.
I can tell, and so many people say the same thing. So I'm pretty sold.
Yeah.
And even you talking about the way it goes off the rails, it reminds me so much of anime, especially long-running anime like One Piece. I'm a huge fan of One Piece, but there are a lot of times where
if you're a fan of anime, you're going to enjoy Fast and Furious. If you're a fan of it, because it is just like, imagine like if someone just wrote a movie like an anime, because some of the stuff you're like, okay. But okay,
like I guess we have dinosaurs now. All right.
I would not be surprised
in the next one, maybe
if there was dinosaurs.
That'd be cool.
But then even as like a storyteller, it gets very funny in these later ones to see how they retconning and altering the stories. Like I don't know if you know the one that John Cena's in. I don't know if you care about spoilers or not, but John Cena reveals to be his brother. He's this brother, which is absolutely bonkers when you consider that for 9 movies, this is someone who is obsessed with family. It's all about family, family this, and he's never mentioned this brother ever. We've never heard him mention a brother. He's not once said one word about a brother. Someone who is so obsessed with family has to have the family dinner, sit down, work out all problems because family's first. For 9 movies, never mentioned a brother. And now he's back and he's like, but we gotta that's family though.
That's so funny. I mean, maybe the family is just the cars you find along the way.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not.
I mean, that's
Blood
real family. Yeah.
Oh gosh, we've gone on this tangent, but no, this is really funny. What else did I want to ask about? Oh, and you host I'm Actually on
Yes.
Dropout. Also a great show.
Thank you.
And this might put you on the spot a little bit.
No,
What's
it's
like the
fine.
weirdest thing you've learned from that show? What's stuck out to you as like the
Oh
weirdest
man,
fact?
I feel like it's, Brian David Gilbert is always like giving me like weird, because his favorite things are like the weird internet things. Like he was talking about the bodybuilding.com debate about, days of weeks to work out, because someone was saying to do, I think it was like something where it's like, I work out, 4 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on, and they're like, no, that math doesn't work. And it started this huge debate. And I
Not their strong point.
Yeah.
Let's be fair.
Yeah, exactly. And like I was someone who frequented, bodybuilding.com forums because it was absolutely wild in there. And I had no clue about this, and I learned, but it's like Brian just has this knowledge of all these like very niche internet things that he's like, this thing happened, and I'm like, yeah, that's wild. But yeah, I'm just constantly learning. It really, for me, it's oftentimes learning more about things that I love, because the way I like to write is in the writing process that we do for I'm Actually. It's me, Brian, and usually like 4 other writers. And so me and Brian will do what we call buckets. So we'll do anime, video games, books, TTRPG, and like, random like nerd assorted things. And then we have the other ones when we know we're going to do a like themed episode, and then there's those. And so we essentially are like, this is how much we need, and then we're keeping everyone kind of, all the writers, in tune with how much is in which one, so that it's well balanced. Hopefully we have just a bunch of statements from all these different genres that we just plug into episodes as we go along. And then we definitely started doing this because typically we would write the show, then cast the show. And so we found it better to write pretty much most of the show, then start the casting process to send out intake forms to get, what people's nerdy things are. And then we get just zero in a little bit more just to have things that people know about, because like, you can tell me like, okay, I love, a Pokemon. Great. Even though you told me that, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to nail the statement, because I'm specifically going to find the pedantic thing around it, because I often say this a lot, I'm Actually isn't a trivia show. In a trivia game or a trivia show, if you know the fact, you get it.
Yeah.
If you know, but it's not about knowing the fact, it's about figuring out what's wrong. And the best statements, in my opinion, are the ones where the people who know it are missing it, because you know it so well, and it's something so pedantic that your brain is kind of skipping over it. It's that thing where if someone, mistypes a sentence, but your brain fills in the gap.
Yes. Oh, well, I write all the time, and I always make spelling mistakes because of that.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's the energy that we try and bring in the statements. And so because of that, if I'm going, okay, I need anime, what anime have I talked about? Because also it's, every statement is a talking point. So we're trying to learn, we want it to be like a fun game show, but it's also, a panel show, and you're learning more about the nerdiness of people. And I definitely wanted to really let that ring true, because I think at the end of the day, this is the like I'm Actually hot take, and I feel like it still carries on, Mike's ethos, where like I'm Actually was made as a joke of like the pedantics, like like I'm Actually was never celebrating it. It was just like, oh, this is so silly. And I think that due to like really kind of make that point go home is having it lead to these like nerdy discussions and conversations. So you still have the fun of the game, but we're still like saying like someone might have been like, I missed that one, I didn't get it, but it's one of my favorite things because of blah 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 blah. It's like, oh yeah, someone who is this passionate also kind of bungled it. But then also the gamers who are like, I'm gonna get them all right, you still get that too.
There's also that effect, I think it's Dunning-Kruger effect, where it's like the less you know about something, the more you think you know.
Yes.
It's one of those psychological things.
Exactly.
Yeah, maybe I'll just like pivot back to games since we're at PAX.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, have you been on the floor? Have you seen anything?
Yes.
Good out? Yeah.
I've been playing a lot of the indie games. I love that you have the like homegrown indie game section that's really good. I mean, I've been a gamer my whole life, a gamer. But I think something that really kind of that I just love, oh my God, so much, is the indie games community. And it was really injected in me when I started doing stuff with Geek and Sundry, when I was one of the Twitch hosts, and we were able to be on the floor for E3, rest in peace, and it was in the Indiecade section. And like our segment, which I still to this day I think is so great, so powerful, and I'm so glad they did it, was in the midst of E3. All of our coverage surrounded the indie games and Indiecade and indie stuff that was coming out to kind of showcase that, because those are really the lifeblood of the industry. I remember, I want to say maybe last year's Summer Games Fest, I was like really bummed, because it was like in the midst of all the layoffs. It was in the midst of all these because I work in the games industry, like it was so much in the sense where like I left Apex because I was a contractor, because since I do TV writing and so many other things, I couldn't be full time because I need to be able to go do all my other stuff. And so I was coming back and I was just watching like all these layoffs happen, and I kind of didn't even bother like being like, hey, can I hop back in? Because I was like, I'm lucky enough to do so many things that I have, like, my shows at Dropout and all that. I think I'm going to just leave a spot open, because Respawn, that was before Respawn had their layoffs. I'm going to leave a spot open so that someone who needs it, that's solely what they do, can get a spot. And then like eventually Respawn started having their layoffs, and so I'm bummed. It's Summer Games Fest, which makes me even more bummed, because you have all these, companies are like, these are all the games we're coming out with. This is all our number, it's a like industry event. They're patting themselves on the back. And I'm like, well, you're talking about all these successes and all the money you're making, while also you're letting go of the people who are actually making it. And so I'm like really bummed. And I went to a indie kind of like mixer / party, and they had these like running fake game announcements through the whole party that we would stop and count down, and it just reminded me of like the punk rock DIY nature of like comedy that I grew up around and all that. And that's when I was like, oh yeah, no matter what happens, indie developers are always going to be making stuff. And if AAA, because it's going to bite AAA in the ass, because they need those people that they're laying off to make it. Like, you, as much as you think you don't, you need, that's why they lay people off and then they hire the contractors. So like, but being in that space surrounded by all those indie like developers, and seeing us just like kind of, laughing at everything I was bummed about, it just kind of like reignited my creative flame in everything I was doing. And so for that, I'm always supporting indie games.
Yeah, well, I always ask all of my guests, what is your advice for people wanting to get into the industry? I guess we'll go wide and say entertainment industry. Do you have advice for someone who's young, maybe think of yourself when you were younger? What would you say to that person?
Oh yeah, I think the advice that I give to anyone who is looking to break in any type of like creative industry is making sure that you're creating that art just by yourself. I think that a lot of times early on we look for permission. We're like, if I make this, will somebody watch this? If I do this, will somebody watch this? I have so many videos that have no views just because I was like, I just want to make it. And just know that every time you're making something, you're getting better, because you can sit there and try and make the perfect thing and whittle it down. And in the end, you finally make it and 5 people, see it. And then you've only learned one lesson, when you could have just been like, making it, learning as you go along. And then also when you make that good stuff, you have this portfolio that you can use to show that you know how to make stuff. So I think that's my big advice, is just writing. Like with video game writing, there was someone who was on Apex who like cut their teeth, writing fan fiction. I think fan fiction can sometimes get you. I was just having a talk about this with some authors when I was on Joko Cruise. I think fan fiction writers get a lot of like flack, but like if you think about every artist, they're recreating art that they've seen. You're recreating sculpts that you've seen. Music, you're playing pieces that other people have made. Writing doesn't really have that. Except for fan fiction, and people like look down on it. But with his screenwriting, you can do a spec script, which is essentially a fanfic for TV. So I think just make the thing so that you can get the reps and keep collaborate laterally. I think everyone thinks if I collaborate with the person that, is already doing stuff, it's going to help me out. It probably won't, because like they're going to get most of the like, like notoriety for it anyway, because if it's like this cool person who's like a professional and this younger person, even the stuff that you're good at, it's going to be kind of looked at as like, oh, it was probably because he had help. Whereas if it was lateral and it's this scrappy group of kind of amateurs making something dope, then they know like, oh, all of them put in that work.
I love that. It resonates because that's pretty much what everyone else says.
Yeah.
But I love the point about the fan fiction as well.
Yeah.
It is, I meet so many professional writers now who started doing that.
I know, it's so weird. I don't know why they're so, I think it because like, they're like, oh, because, fan fiction has this like very reputation of being so like, slash fictiony. And I was like, well, no, there's so much narrative
and, there's skills you learn.
Yeah, I mean, even then, I think that the romance novel genre is probably one of the most lucrative, writing opportunities right now. And it's oftentimes looked down on because it's mostly enjoyed by women.
Yeah.
So it's really like silly to ever let yourself be discounted because of something everyone else is saying when you can see the data yourself. Follow the data, trust yourself, make what you want.